Hello and welcome to Scroll. Today we will be talking to Michelin-star chef Suvir Saran about this new initiative of Scroll, which is called Scroll Chef of the Month. Before we talk about chef, founder of Scroll Food, and a bit about what Scroll Food is all about and what Scroll Chef of the Month is all about. Hi, Aman.
Hi, Karnika. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about Scroll Food. So, we started Scroll Food in December of last year to create an encyclopedia of Indian recipes. We wanted to document India's culinary secrets from the north to the south and east to the west. Of course, there had been similar efforts in the past, but they were balkanized. We wanted to bring it all under one umbrella. Efforts, I think, were proceeding quite seamlessly when, alas, the pandemic hit the country and battered the economy, particularly the F&B industry. That's when we decided that we're going to pivot and going to start an initiative called Chef of the Month so that we can assist chefs in amplifying their voices. The initiative has been running for 3 months now, and we are truly fortunate that in August, Chef Suvir Saran agreed to be a part of it. Chef Suvir, as everyone knows, was the Michelin-star chef behind Manhattan's Devi, which redefined Indian food for all of America. He has also written three very well received books, including one which sold 250,000 copies. Besides that, he's also featured on popular TV programs like Iron Chef and Top Chef Masters. He's now back in India to launch an F&B vertical. His first restaurant, the House of Celeste in Gurgaon, has received reviews from critics all around. So, without further ado, let me hand the baton back to you, Karnika, so that you can discuss the burning questions of our time with Chef Suvir.
Thank you. Hi, chef.
Hi, good afternoon, Karnika.
How are you
And
doing?
Aman, thank you for your introduction.
How are you doing?
Very well. Locked down with locks that are ready to be shared. And I am thinking of my alpacas in New York that in June, July were desperate to get their fiber shorn and just out of their hair. And I need the same thing. So my apologies for being a gollywog.
Okay, let's get started. Let's get started and talk about your beginning. So you're a self-taught chef. What's like your first food memory? How did you like get interested in cooking? And what are your earliest memories of, just being in the kitchen and cooking and eating?
The earliest memories are of my grandmother literally feeding the gods early in the morning, and then our Panditji, the chef at the house, making that, enabling that, and then the food going in a thali, a plate to the chat, the roof, that was then fed to the gods. And the birds would eat it, and Nadi would tell me they're taking it to the gods. So that's my earliest memory. And it's a memory that very quickly made this young boy that I was realized the importance of food because there was a divine connection to it, and also it was taken seriously. It wasn't. There are people who say, "I'm throwing a dish together. I'm going to do something in a jiffy." There was no jiffy and no throwing things around in our kitchen. It was navedyam. It was food for the gods. If it was fit for them, it was good for us. And in the end, you are what you eat. So my memories of food are sacrosanct, are sacred, are all about food being this is the glue that kept families, people, and communities together, and also heightened their experience and their day-to-day living if you did it correctly. So those are my earliest memories of food.
Okay, so you've had like a interesting start, I'd say, to actually like cooking and all. So your grounding was in Indian food in India, but you built your culinary career in US while working jobs at like Bergdorf, Goodman, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That sounds kind of like really cool and incredible. Could you like talk a little bit about that and what it was like juggling all those things?
I went to study in New York at the School of Visual Arts at the age of 20 from JJ School of Arts in Bombay. And I also wanted to be in New York. From a young, when I first went to New York as a teenager, I wanted to go back now as a 20-year-old to make home in New York and realize dreams and achieve those aspirations that I had and maybe find my mojo. And so I went to school and I started working while going to school. So I would wake up at around 4:35 in the morning after having gone to bed around 1 in the morning, and I would I would have prepared something at night after dinner to have ready for me to play with in the morning, and then I would arrive at my workplace, say that the Met, Bergdorf's, and Henry Bendel, with food for my co-workers to enjoy with me, breakfast, and then I would come home by 6:30, 7, 8 in the evening, and by 10:30 people would come for dinner. So every day, morning cooking and night cooking was guaranteed, and lots of people coming in, strangers and friends alike, and friends of friends. And food became the vehicle for me to feel comfortable in my own skin, in my own home, in a new land, and to feed my soul and those of others. And retail paid the some of the bills. My father and mother, with their generosity in thinking they were paying for my education, footed some of those other bills. And life and good luck helped as well. So that's the connection to my work. But I loved retail because it was all about people and in just serving the needs of others. And cooking plays the same role. And I'm a loner at heart. I'm the happiest when nobody is around me, when I'm reading, writing, or singing. And but after, I think, a decade of retail, I was ready to. I wasn't wanting to change from retail to food, but when I was given the opportunity, I thought my life would change. Little did I know that hospitality is even more intense customer service and customer confrontation, if you will. And so the 3 or 4 hours in the evening when I'm alone are my downtime when I indulge me. The other times I'm performing, and it's not that I'm natural at it. I have to do it because I do enjoy pleasing others.
So, when you were cooking for your colleagues, I'm assuming they were pretty much like people who haven't had Indian food, or the Indian food that you get in US and UK and abroad, basically, which is just, I don't know, some weird form of curry mostly. What kind of stuff were you cooking for them?
India hasn't ever done justice to Indian food. I think when you and I are sitting and talking about Indian food in America, we forget that Indian food in India can be even more ghastly than Indian food abroad, because we Indians are not proud of our nation's heritage, which is the home cooking of India. Unlike France, unlike Italy, where the cuisine of the restaurants was always at the forefront of fine dining, in India, fine dining happened in our homes. The Haat Ki Safai, the finest entertaining, the most indulgent meals were served in a home setting, cooked by mothers, caregivers, family cooks, maharajas, pandits, and the khansamas. And recipes were guarded with a lot of secrecy and with pride. So what we share in India at restaurants is hardly anything to be proud of even today. We are changing, but very slowly. So when I arrived in New York was in a very odd place in its own history as a city. New York was young, even though it was an old city. And in '93, it wasn't the city it is in 2020. There was disparity of income. There was lack of gourmet dining options. The haves were very lucky to have a few experiences that were great, but the have-nots or the middle class had very little to call gourmet. And so the France was still ruling, Italy was ruling. But then by the late 1990s, early 2000s, New York had arrived. I think that's what's happening in India. I always tell people it's interesting for me to see that I was in New York in 1993 when people ate differently. I'm in India again as people are changing. So in '93, I wasn't just cooking Indian, I was cooking delicious fare, because I had to feed myself food that fed my soul, which was homesick for the incredibly delicious meals our home would feed me and everyone that came to it. And so I was cooking anything from guacamole to wonderful quesadilla to kadhi chawal to bharwa karele to meat dishes that I'd never grown up eating. But I taught myself how to cook meat, even though I couldn't taste it. But I cooked it in the style and with the indulgence and the sweat and perseverance and discipline that I brought to vegetarian cooking. And as I cooked and shared, word spread that there was this young kid in New York cooking some of the best food in New York City, not Indian food. And then, of course, the Indian, when they would eat my ghar ka khana, the simple hing zire ki sabzis, the parathas, the puris, the kheer, the stir fries, the pakoras, they realized that Indian food didn't have to be greasy, heavy, cream laden, butter laden. That butter chicken, tandoori chicken, dal makhni, paneer makhni, these were not the length and breadth and the north and south of Indian cuisine. There was more to India and India's cuisines than the restaurant versions that we shared in our own country and overseas. So that's what I cooked when I first arrived in New York.
I have another question, but I feel I need to ask this first. So you mentioned that you couldn't taste meat, so I'm assuming you're a vegetarian. What is it like? I mean, what is it like being a vegetarian chef? Because you're cooking everything. And I guess, like, I mean, when I am cooking, for me, like, one of the most important things while cooking is tasting, right? You're continuously tasting because you want to see where it's going and build those flavors together. So, what is it like cooking non vegetarian food or meat when you can't taste it?
So even before I got my, I'm not vegetarian anymore. I would say I'm by choice. I'm vegetarian by profession and by I'm what in Japan they would say Buddhist vegetarian. If you by choice I'm vegetarian, but if you put a hunk of meat in front of me, foie gras, fugu sperm, any food, monkey brain, I'll eat it. I eat what's given to me, and truth be told, I love eating meat. But that didn't happen till I would say 2010, 2009, 2010 is when I started eating meat. So I got my Michelin star before I even tasted meat. Cooking meat wasn't a challenge. What was challenge? The only challenge I had when I first cooked meat the first day was to touch it. But at that point, my friend of mine said to me, "You who opens his home, his heart, his table so warmly, why are you so opposed to cooking meat? If it gives another pleasure, don't you think you want to give them that pleasure?" And that conversation made me realize, nope, I have to cook meat. And so I would just somehow squeamishly clean the meat and start cooking. And I would go to friends' homes and watch them do it. So it became just, it wasn't difficult for me anymore. And I would, in India, we say you have to cook with tajurba, with experience. And as going back to the first answer, cooking in India is about naivedyam in Hindu homes, where the ibadat you bring to your craft, it tells you to not taste as you cook. It get defiled, the food gets defiled. So if I could cook vegetarian food without tasting, I taught myself to do the same with Indian cooking as well, non-vegetarian cooking. And so it wasn't difficult. But then Gail Green, the food critic of New York Magazine, for 40 plus years till she retired a few years ago, one day post me getting the Michelin star and having gotten wonderful kind reviews in magazines and papers, Gail said to me, "You're writing a story about restaurants in your travels. Why should I trust you?" And I said, she said, "No, it's not enough to say Charlie enjoyed this. I'm reading you. How can I trust you for your experience when you're not doing it, since I know you don't eat meat?" And that shamed me into saying, "I will taste it." And she regrets it because now I love meat. And I have gout. So every time I overindulge in meat, I get sick and very, very seriously sick. So meat doesn't love me, but I love meat. And Gail Green made me get into eating meat, and I couldn't thank her enough because it opened a whole new world for me, a world for me. And I also realized how vegetables are so much more difficult to have sing and dance at a table on a plate in a kitchen if you're not interested in indulging them. Meat, with all the fat it has, with a little bit of salt and pepper, you don't need to do more. You can even swallow a old shoe with a little grease put on it, you'll slide right down. But with vegetables, you have to be very on top of your game. You have to know how to caress them and hold them and smell them and touch them and feel them, and then do the right things with them in the right temperature, in the right amount of time. It's all about a craft that you have to be really in tune with. And so vegetarian cooking is for the geniuses. Meat cooking is for sissies. So if you're a serious cook, a serious chef, you have to know how to cook vegetables. When you learn how to cook vegetables, you can learn how to cook meat. So I realized the difficulty and the sophistry of dealing with vegetables once I'd cooked and mastered cooking meats. It's so much easier to make meat delicious.
I think we've got our headline there. Vegetarian cooking is for geniuses. Okay, going back to where we were. So after all of those jobs, right, the ones that were not in the F&B industry, you became the executive chef at Devi, where you won the Michelin-star. Congratulations. So what was it like the moment when you found out that you have won? And I mean, did you expect it? And what was the feeling? Like, what was it like?
So at Devi, my partner in crime was a very wonderful chef and man, Hemant Mathur. Hemant and I were co-executive chefs and partners in Delicious Crime. And I remember in 2002, I think so, that we got our first Michelin star. Mr. Naret, the publisher, called late at night, 11:30 at night. And I'm a late bird. I don't sleep till 3 in the morning. But it was odd that somebody was calling with an unidentified number. And he said, I'm Mr. Naret. Jean-Paul Naret, I believe, was the name. And he said, Chef Saran? I said, yes. He said, I have good news to share at this late hour. I said, what kind of good news? He said, I'm the publisher of the Michelin Guide. And I'd known the Michelin Guide. I said, what do you need from me? He said, nothing. I want to give you something. And he said, you are one of those small pool of chefs in America that are getting a Michelin star for the first time that the guide has arrived in the American shores. And how do you feel? I said, I feel just the same as I did before your call came in. And he said, is that so? I said, yes. I said, I'm flattered, we are honored, but the star doesn't change how we do our work. It's a good pat on the shoulder. It will bring new people to enjoy our craft, but who we are doesn't change. And he loved the answer. And the next day it was in the New York Times. They had featured the list and they'd given a shout out to a handful of chefs, and I was one of them. And it felt very good for that minute. But my life didn't change. My commitment to my country's cuisines, my own desire to cook and cook with care and mindfulness would have remained the same with or without the star. And I tell young people, it's wonderful to get these stars, but if you're chasing them alone and not looking for fulfillment, for self-indulgence or to your craft, or a fulfillment that gives you joy when even there's failure in a kitchen, if you're not chasing that, you'll burn out. But when each meal you cook and each time you step into a kitchen, you feel your mind, body, and soul are coming to this amazing spot of brilliance, of peace, of equanimity, of just thinking everything is correct. If you enter a kitchen and you feel that, that's when you're doing the right thing. The stars come and go because one angry critic or jealous competitor can even create a vicious campaign against you. But if you do what you love and you do it correctly, you sleep happily every night because you know you did the right thing. And so I think chase that more than the stars.
So what is it like? I mean, a lot of people, when we go to the restaurants, and especially like, nicer restaurants and for fine dining, what you see is like all glamour, right? And the whole experience is just like all stars and all of that. So, but not a lot of people know what it takes to run a restaurant and, what kind of hard work goes behind it. So could you talk a little bit about, your experience running restaurants?
A friend of mine, Joyce Goldstein, she was the founder of the Women Chefs in America NGO that made it possible for women to wear a chef's coat. Till then, women wore aprons because they were not considered equals in a kitchen. And Joyce always says that a good chef can run the world. A good chef can run a nation. A good chef can mobilize armies for peace. And that's what it takes to run a restaurant. You're not just a chef. You are a babysitter. You're a a therapist, you're a bottle cleaner, you're a dishwasher, you're a, uh, uh, Machiavellian, egotistical, maniacal dictator. You are the most loving, caring, nurturing mother. You are the soothsayer who can heal an angry customer. You have to be the organized businessman who knows where all the finances and everything are in order. So you have to play and juggle many roles. But all of this happens due to an incredible team and ownership collective, visionaries that believe in you and also entrust you with a team that is incredibly sound and diverse in their own strengths. And as a group, a collective, a collegial working environment, if you have all of that, only then can you have a successful business that will last longer than a year or two. And most restaurants open and rise and then fall and crash. But a restaurant that can live past 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years is a restaurant that took a lot of all of that to have behind it. And so it's teamwork, it's vision, it's commitment to a craft, it's having stamina to stay, because you don't reach the zenith of your dreams overnight. It's a journey to get there, and then even a tougher journey to maintain that journey's brilliance in the eyes of the audience, which is your customer. So it's teamwork, 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 and location, location, location. And of course, taste, taste, taste. So those three things together make a successful restaurant function.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about what Indian cuisine is perceived as, because so you've said that you wanted to bust that myth that Indian food can only be either greasy or meant to be eaten after you have had like a couple of drinks. Where do you think that perception comes from?
Who can eat butter chicken, dal makhani, paneer makhani, and garlic naan in any refined setting beyond a little bite? It's yes, we've grown up. There are generations of Indians today from 1950 on who just think their imagination can only go that far, but that doesn't make the food enjoyable, pleasurable, or even blimp on the map to others who are not grown up with it. There's one person's poison could be another person's gourmet indulgence. But if the world outside of India doesn't think of us as being correct, we failed in conveying the magic of our cooking. So it's a tough dichotomy, because there's so many Indians in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s that think of that as the epitome of Indian cuisine. So finally, in the last, I think, 3-4 years, and more so today, we are now learning about regional Indian cuisine, about ingredients that are local, that are as old as India, that may look odd but taste incredible, especially when cooked with other odd ingredients that grow around them. Because we say in cooking that what grows together should stay together. And as we cook more regionalized, more seasonal cuisine again in India, we will finally see the brilliance of Indian cooking that is layered and sophisticated beyond the grasp of any Northern European cuisine. But till we are only cooking creamy, buttery, gloppy, fried, almost monotheistic version of cuisine, we are going to fail ourselves in the world into believing we are anything special. Because when you go to a fine dining restaurant anywhere in the world, it's not about how much butter and cream and deep fried and how much spice you can put. It's the crescendo of a symphony and harmony of flavors that is hot, sour, salty, sweet, bitter, astringent, cold, lukewarm, and searing hot, crunchy, crispy, soggy, soft, smooth, dardara, coarse, all of that. So in India, we don't have to look too far. We used to have chappan bhog, that in a perfect meal for the gods, we had to indulge 56 unique sensations in a meal time. And when you did that, you got satiety for every sense that you have, from scent to sound to sight to taste. And all of a sudden, and you felt, wow, you felt complete. You felt joy that you had eaten little, but tripti mil gayi. You saw satiety. Today we eat like waste paper baskets and vacuum cleaner connection, and you still don't feel hungry. Then you do another binging. Binging is not indulgence in a refined manner. That comes when what you eat doesn't give you pleasure. You're feeding a tummy, but your mind is not getting pleasure. So you can keep eating, keep eating. So at 3 in the morning, when you're drunk and eating at Pandara Road, you're not looking for tripti. You're chasing that, oh, I'm hungry. And you keep eating and stuffing your face. Your brain is disconnected to your mouth. The plumbing isn't connected. It's a mess. But I think when we are more mindful, India has the richest tradition of mindful eating and holistically seasonal, regional, and societally very nuanced foodways. We have to get them back. I think at one of the reviews of Devi, the New York Times critic wrote, "Food so old, it's fresh." Because I would tell them these are not my recipes; these are grandmothers of India have been making these foods. So he wrote, "Food so old that it's fresh." And I think in India we need to go back 200 years, and we have amazing food that we can again bring back to its 21st century form, and it will have beautiful looks, incredible flavor, wonderful healthfulness, and it would be even sustainable in its cooking practices. Our food is brilliant in the yore, we need to make it brilliant again.
I agree. I mean, except the garlic naan part, which I feel like I need to take offense to, but rest all I agree with.
I love garlic naan too, but it's not the epitome of naan. When you would come to my restaurant at Devi, the people who love garlic naan, including me, we would make Parmigiano naan, we would make goat cheese and spinach naan, we would make the taleggio and mushroom naan, we would make naan with thyme and red chilies. All of a sudden you were smelling to see, wow, it has garlic, but there's so much more. At the House of Celeste, we make a garlic flatbread that people who've come and eaten it in Gurgaon, they have an epiphany sitting at the table. It's not just about garlic. It's about layers and layers of discovery. When you are chasing one note, fine, it does its trick, but your brain gets even greater joy when you can get that garlic fix, but also learn something new while eating. The texture, the scent, the aromas, the depth of flavor, a discovery that comes 10 minutes after you took the first bite. What was that? Oh, that the dough had a little bit of pudina just kneaded into the dough before we made dance out of it. That pudina sings a note 5 minutes after you've taken your first bite. That is Indian food. That there's nuance of flavor that nobody else can bring to the fore. And if you go chase that, Indian food will beat all other cuisines. There's a reason we've always been the next cuisine but never arrived. So we need the current generation of Indians, 50 and under, to make it their mission that we want Indian food to arrive, not remain the next best thing. We want it to be the best thing. We are incredible people. Our culture is incredibly rich. Our culture has traditions that were incredibly beyond their time, even 3,000 years ago. So let's go back to that brilliance, and we'll never have to worry about the world. We'll lead the world in how to eat correctly.
That I agree with. Okay, so what kind of struggles did you face when you were in US? I mean, after all, you were a brown man in a white-dominated industry that is infamous for its bro code. So were they all welcoming? What was your experience like?
So I was a lucky man. Was I racially profiled? Did I hear horrible epithets? Did I hear stereotypical commentary? Was I called names? Of course, all of that happened. But by and large, I was lucky enough that a door would open, and immediately beyond it was another beautifully open door with a welcome that was unbelievable. So I can't complain too much, but I also have to be honest and say I was called nasty things from curry boys, stinky, smelly, curry Indian, all kinds of terrorists, effing Arab, smelly Muslim, a smelly terrorist, all kinds of things, idolatrous Hindu, but this wasn't a human being talking. It was their lack of awareness, lack of understanding of what the world was. It was innocence, if you will. I call it innocence because I don't want to hate people. I always challenge these people to say, dude, come on, sit with me, talk to me, hear me out, eat my food. And if you still find me smelly and a terrorist and a hater and a fool and a ugly human being, fine, I'll believe you. But without knowing me, don't hate me. I was also called faggot, and I was an openly gay man and a gay chef in an industry where being gay wasn't tolerated really. So in many ways, I was brown. I was spoke with a lisp. I had an accent. I was foreign. I used to have long hair at one time. So I did everything wrong in a society that was very straight laced. And yet there were so many people that were so good to me that I can't complain, but I can't also whitewash the truth. But we have racism, bigotry, hate, misogyny, the bullying happen in every culture, every society. In Avenue Q, this show on Broadway, there was a song that said, "We are all a little bit racist." And the smart amongst us understand that, appreciate it, and they work on it daily. So if you know that you are a little bit racist, you live with open eyes, you hear what's happening around you, you speak up against any kind of bullying that happens around you, because not for you, you want to protect the other. You do the right thing when nobody is watching, and you give a voice to the people who are voiceless and without any majority position in that society. So I was helped by many people in America that stood by me when people made laughed at me, where they were marginalizing me or bullying me, and their love, their belief in me, their trust in me, their confidence in me kept me strong. And I think as human beings, we should always look out for the other and let the other look out for us. And that's what worked for me.
That's a really beautiful note. Okay. So you have judged Iron Chef and you have been a part of Top Chef Masters. Both programs, they kind of like put a lot of emphasis on, I could say, drama and friction between contestants, and as much as they do over food. So what was your experience like being a part of those shows?
It took Top Chef Masters 2 years to get me to agree to tape the season 3 with them. For season 2, I said no. Season 3, I kept saying no till they said, okay, you don't have to do a screen test. We don't need anything from you. Just show up. And at that point, my publicist said, you have to do this. They've been very kind. They've not asked you for anything. I was reluctant because I have no competitive bone in my body. If I see somebody struggling anywhere in the world, I will leave any deadline I have and go help them. My parents have taught us to look out for the other before looking out for ourselves. That if we do the right thing, somebody in the world will do the right thing for us when we need help. So that's how I live my life. And my partner Charlie said to me, do you want to be embarrassed on TV? I said, why? He said, you won't be competing, you'll be helping everybody else. And that's what would happen. You can see it in some of the shows. I would be finding the hidden ingredients that people would hide from each other. If somebody needed flour and another had hidden it, I would find it and give it back to a contestant looking for it. If everybody would go like, dogs going to a carcass to attack it, when meat would come onto a table, I would let people pick the animal proteins they wanted. I would happily cook with what was left over. I didn't have it in my head I have to cook beef or steak or shrimp or chicken. I would cook with ugly vegetables that people didn't want to cook. I would make them sing and dance. So for me, winning wasn't the goal. My team told me, go, you'll enjoy the camera because the camera loves you. And I said, I don't like competing. I don't like TV shows. They said, do it. You may have something to share. Reluctantly, I did Top Chef Masters. But while taping it, I was fed up because I saw that reality TV is not all that real. It's a lot of drama. And as dramatic as I may seem to people, I have zero tolerance for drama. I just have a voice. So people think it's drama, but it's honest. So I told the producers, I want to leave, I want to leave, I want to leave. And finally, I had an opportunity to leave when the channel Bravo, with incredible foresight, put a challenge for the chefs to cook a nutritive, healthy dish for a contestant from the Biggest Loser show. That was a show where morbidly obese people would come to lose weight. And I was given my contestant who was morbidly obese, who was changing their life. And her addiction was bacon cheeseburger. I had to make a healthy, nutritive option for her. The other chefs all did incredible dishes and did beautiful jobs with their contestants. I was the only chef who was, now it's 17 years that I've been working with Harvard School of Public Health on a program called Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives. At that time, it may have been 10, 12 years. So I had knowledge of nutrition that most chefs don't have. So for me, cooking a small burger with bacon and beef wasn't good enough an option for my morbidly obese contestant. I made a veggie burger. I made it delicious. I worked very hard, 5 times as hard as I would have had to make a bacon cheeseburger. The contestant said it was tasty, but the judge asked, "Didn't he fail you by not making you a bacon cheeseburger?" She said, "Well, it wasn't a bacon cheeseburger." He said, "But you love it." So the judge failed America in telling the contestant that I'd done wrong. So a calorie from cabbage, cauliflower, onions, tomatoes, and whole wheat is a very different calorie from a calorie from beef. One clogs your arteries and will give you cancer. The other gives you fiber that's good for the body. So two very the chefs who were innocent and smart people, talented, gifted, made delicious, calorically correct food. But 600 calorie burger is better than a 1200 calorie burger, but a 350 calorie burger with vegetables and legumes and beans is infinitely better still. So I did what was nutritively sound and mindfully correct. They did what was met the caloric count. So I told the judges they were failing America. And of course, it didn't go well. The judges let me go. I got my wish of leaving the island of reality and going back to the real life that I lived. And fast forward, when the show came out, when the season premiered, the TV Examiner, the newspaper that reviews TV shows, the headline said, "Top Chef Masters Season 3, the legend of Suvir Saran is born." And in the first paragraph, they said, Saran is equal parts Aristotle and Fabio. Fabio was this very good-looking contestant on TV. Aristotle, we know. So on camera, I was myself. I was unflappable. I wasn't willing to compromise. I wasn't loose with my tongue, because sometimes in reality shows they get you drunk. They're giving you everything you need to let go of your guard. And I'm stiff yet funny. And so I was myself, and and CNN and other people that reviewed the show all thought that I was able to maintain my character. And I also knew that it was TV, not real life. So they said that I enjoyed it, I had fun, but I wasn't taking myself too seriously. So if you're on reality TV, be real, have fun, but don't let the TV get the better of you. The camera shouldn't make a fool out of you. And the next Iron Chef, I had a lot of fun. I also wore a Rohit Bal outfit, a angarkha that Gudda made for me. And because I was judging, I said I can bring India with me to the kitchen. So I wore this incredibly big gherewala angarkha and a shawl that Gudda made for me. And I was looking like a peacock strutting around in that kitchen. But I wanted to show the world that India is all about color, fabric, nuance, handcraft. And so Rohit Bal made me look good while I was judging Iron Chef and Next Iron Chef. And they were fun. It's incredible to see how a lot of chefs have the ability to go with that adrenaline rush and create brilliance. And beyond the drama, there's a lot of delicious flavors, a lot of good food, camaraderie, life lessons, and business acumen that you get by going to these shows.
We have got a question, a couple of those actually, from our viewers who are watching us live right now. So we're going to take one of those. The viewer wants to know, on your point about local ingredients, how do you think urban environments can get more local variety rather than the usual supermarket standard hybrid staple vegetables? What do you think it takes for a steady, hyper local supply chain that people can turn to and rely on?
So you need to make partnerships with farms and farmers. You need to find these small-time farmers that are willing to give you shares in their farming practices. If you pay them by quarter in advance, they'll plant seeds of crops that you are more interested in. So in America, that's what we were doing. And I think that's what you need to know where your supply chain is coming from. Go to farms, go to markets, go to your vendors, sabzi walas on the streets. If you talk to them, they'll bring you that cholia, the greens, the nasturtium leaves. A lot of these vegetables that are local and wild are available in the sabzi mandi, but the sabzi walas with the thela coming to your street side are not bringing them because the average customer doesn't want them. But if you humanize your experience, if you talk to a phalwala and a sabzi wala, or if you go to the big market, sab cheez milti hai, you get everything. You have to make the effort to consider that other human being giving you goods, to have an intelligence and a mind that can talk to you and guide you. If you're willing to let go of your guard, the other one will let go of theirs, and magic can happen at that moment, because they'll take you to sources that have what you're looking for. It's just an extra effort. It's an investment of 4 or 5 days a week, but in that extra week that you give to finding out these sources, you'll have a lifetime of joy.
So you returned to India after you suffered a mini stroke, which impaired your vision and your motor skills. That must have been a really difficult time. So, what's your takeaway from that period?
To live life king size every minute, and king size is not Ayashi. My mother always says that affluenza is killing India, not any pandemic. It's this materialistic greed, a disconnect with humanity and our own empathetic selves, as we become like robotic creatures chasing mindless materialism. We've lost a connection to our own self, and in doing that with our neighbors and our fellow human beings. So that when I was breaking down, when I was losing sight and had a faulty memory and had to be dependent on my mother and good friends to function and feel that I was anything worth anything, I realized that humanity, empathy, generosity, kindness, forgiveness, hope, comfort, nurturing, these were the values that mattered, because money comes and goes. They say that popularity is like vapor, it goes away. Riches have wings. The only thing that remains forever is character. And if you have good character, that sticks by you forever. And in my poor health taught me that if I didn't change who I was, through the ups and downs, the good and the bad, I could smile because I believed in me, and there were others believing in me as well. So being connected, being mindful, and being present are the gifts that I learned from my bad health.
I'm glad you're feeling better now, and I'm glad we have you here. Okay, so when you were in the US, you wanted to bust a myth with your food, right? So, what is it that you want to achieve with your food in India, specifically the restaurant you opened in Gurgaon, the House of Celeste?
I'm excited to be in India like I was in New York in 1993, where there's a flux, there's almost renaissance happening, where people are now thinking outside the box. They want to go to experiences that are a little different. And I'm hoping that with increment steps, we can push the bar and create Indian food 2.0, and that I can be one of the first people getting to that place. Sweet spot where you get comfort, but you get innovation, where you get progressive nuance to the food, but you also get age-old traditions finding their due respect. And that's what I want to do. So you don't want to be divorced from reality. When I first came to Delhi a few years ago and opened Veda, meko thappad pade the, because I did what Indian accent has still not done. I took it a little beyond Indian accent. But then when Indian accent came 10 years later, they said, wow. So, I was ahead of my time. So as you get older, you realize that you can be daring, but you have to show some restraint. And I remember the Chinese philosophers would say, you can be authentic to this moment by living in it, and by thinking about the future, and be connected to what was yesterday. So a couple of days ago, we lost Pandit Jasraj, the classical musician. He was my guru, Marina Ahmed's guru. So he was my guru's guru. And Panditji was a young boy at heart, and in the body of an older man. His music, his way of living and being, his comfort with the youth, his hunger to be learning about technology of the future was so solid, because he said, if you're not one with people coming tomorrow, you can't be true, authentic professionals of your profession. Then you're failing it. So if you're either all the way into the 22nd century, you're a failure today. If you're living in the 18th century only, you're dead today. So to be smart, you have to have a leg in both places in the future and in the past, but be mindfully present in the present. And I think I'm hoping that I can bring India's rich culinary heritage back to India with a little playfulness, with a nod to the traditions of our past, and with the style, oomph, and personality that we need for being relevant tomorrow. So I want to create the bridge between what will be and what was, and hopefully give people a beautiful, smooth ride to the future as they arrive there.
We're almost out of time, but I want to ask this very important question. So right now, we have been in a lockdown pretty much for months now, and it looks like we're going to spend the rest of this year also in a lockdown, if not also the first half of next year. And the lockdown has really affected the F&B industry, right? A lot of sorry?
Decimated it.
Yeah. So, so a lot of restaurants are shutting down. Even today, I was reading a report where Zomato, the food delivery website, they said that almost 10% of restaurants have shut down, and they anticipate that 30% more are going to shut down. How are you guys coping? Because you also had to temporarily shut down your restaurant.
We are closed right now. We're closed right now.
Yeah, exactly. And how are you guys coping, and what do you think is in the future for the industry?
I wish I knew the future, but I can tell you from the past that I've lived that moments like this need a very sound vision, need deep pockets, and confidence and dedication to your profession, to the industry, and to the belief that tomorrow will be different. And when that tomorrow comes, we'll have 50% or more of the business change. There'll be doors that will have closed, but new ones will certainly open again in their place. The cowards, the greedy, the fearful, the ones who are just hedging on a bet, they'll be the ones gone. The people who'll stay from what was today or yesterday will be the ones with the lions who thought big, who were thought smart, who were believing in what their business was in the larger industry. These will be the players that will be relevant tomorrow. And then we'll have the new ones that will open as the pandemic ends because they have the money. So to be relevant tomorrow in our industry, we have to look at losing a little right now, but gaining a lot. Because if we, the ones who stay in business and open tomorrow, will have the experience to cull from and be a little ahead of those newcomers coming in when the pandemic ends. So a smart operator will not be counting his pennies now for how he can scrounge and mistreat his employees and fire them and not pay them. A smart operator will take care of his team with the sound business strategy that may say, look, I'll give you 40% less salary, but stay with me. Let's come up with a new menu. Let's do development. Let's create packaging for tomorrow. Let's do team building exercises. Let's get to know each other. Let's dream. Let's read books. Let's do wine training. Do all of that. And so that when we open, when the pandemic ends, we have a team that's bonded, that's richer, that's happy working with each other. Those are the people that will be relevant tomorrow. The Johnny-come-latelys who are greedy will disappear just as fast as they arrived in our business. The visionaries will stay.
Okay, one last very quick question, and then we will end this. Which are your favorite restaurants in India to go to, and what is it that you cook at when you're super hungry at maybe 3 a.m. in the morning?
So my favorite restaurants are my Sunita Bhua's kitchen, Vinita Bhua's kitchen, my Bhabhi Smita's kitchen, and of course my mother's kitchen, and many other friends and family members, Abha auntie. So there are restaurants that are now doing good food. We have the classics. I don't need to name them to get them any more business. They've all been there. I mean, I have cravings for Nirula's ice cream, which is not real ice cream anymore. But it's changed actually from when I arrived to today. They've had ownership change, and I think it's getting a little better. But then we have the Pandara Road restaurant that's wonderful at a certain hour of the night and also consistent. There's Bukhara if you want that food. There's House of Ming for the non-Chinese Chinese. There's we have all those places that I shouldn't have named, but I'm naming still. But then I've enjoyed getting to know this biryani place, kebabs and rolls and biryani by the kilo. They both do incredible kebabs and biryanis. I've enjoyed a restaurant called Roo, where they did daring Indian food, and I wish it was more consistent. But with the all the challenges that a good restaurant has to face in Delhi, Roo did an outstanding job, and I commend the chef and the team for doing what they do. They did a beautiful job, and my hats off to them. I enjoyed my meal there. I haven't gone to Indian Accent in New York, in New Delhi. I've gone to it in New York. They're doing a good job. In these are the places I've gone to, but I truly love Indian ghar ka khana because the delicacy, the connection it has to history, lore, legend, seasons, and any festival, and the social. If you're a Hindu or a Muslim or a Banya or a Kayas or a Gujarati or a Marwadi, the nuance in your food reflects that, and all of a sudden our hate amongst each other disappears, and what you realize is we are bikre bikre tare hain hum lekin jhil mein ek hai, that we shimmer and shine and we look gorgeous because of our different takes on the same vegetables or meats, and that is what I find fascinating. So these are I dine inside a home more than outside, but I've also enjoyed, there was a Greener Cafe in Gurgaon where my restaurant was. They are doing incredible stuff. Simple cafe fare that was delicious. But at midnight cravings, I can be very happy with chubby cheeks and cold love ice cream at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning. I can sometimes finish a whole box and with a little spoon in bed watching some TV or writing some prose. Ice cream is my midnight indulgence. But I also love bhel puri. I live in South Extension where the bhel puri wala in Part 1 has a reputation for good reason. And it's not Bombay bhel puri, it's sweet and a little too seasoned. But I've grown up eating it so I can enjoy that poison. And I love the food we make at our home. It's superlative vegetarian fare that I can eat. Today I ate chana pani, which is black chickpeas made in a dahi ki curry. It's magically incredible. Yesterday we had parval and aloo, which were amazing. So simple things like that give me great joy. And when Eid had come by, sheer khurma, the meaty sevai for meaty Eid, and of course goat curry for Bakar Eid. Who can avoid that temptation? And then malpuas for Diwali and Janmashtami ka the Panchamrit, the Chanamrit. Oof, just had it for Janmashtami. I'm drooling. I can't speak about it because I'm hungry for it. Shahad and milk and yogurt and raisins and almonds and basil, tulsi. Incredible. So who can? Our food is so rich that there are beautiful memories associated with everything.
I think that's the perfect note to end this conversation. Thanks a lot, Chef, for agreeing to this. And I just want to remind our viewers that we have been publishing recipes by Chef Suvir Saran on Scroll Food all of this month, and a lot of really awesome kitchen hack videos. You can check them out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on our website. Thank you for joining us. Thanks a lot again, Chef.
Thank you for having me. I love how Scroll has handled the recipes and done the hacks. You all do a fabulous job, and my hats off to Team Scroll for what you do with food. Thank you.
Thank you.